Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Srini here. And today we're going to look at the second video in the playlist of JavaScript learning from scratch. And if you're new to this video, please do consider subscribing to it and hit the bell icon to get notifications. And also, I would like to show my new channel as well. And that will be completely based on coding from scratch. So if you are new to this channel, you can also check out this channel, Learn to Code by Srini. Here you'll be getting a lot of playlists and videos on data structures, algorithms, and even I started to do it for different programming languages. So I started with Python. I'll also do it for Java and other programming languages. So feel free to also look out this channel and subscribe to it if you like it. And this is my existing channel. So if you're new to this, you can go to the playlist and you can look at the different videos which I have got. Okay. So let's get started. So what we'll do today's topic is that we're going to look at the Visual Studio. Okay, so this is a second topic in the JavaScript playlist from scratch, and this is going to be for Visual Studio because we need an editor with which we can write JavaScript files and also be able to run it, right? So Visual Studio is a perfect IDE an excellent IDE, basically, I would say, for JavaScript. So let's get started with today's agenda. So we're going to look at the installation of Visual Studio Code. Then we will write a basic example of JavaScript with HTML, how it works. And then also we will try to separately execute only a JavaScript file with Visual Studio Code Editor. So let's get started with today's topic directly. So I'm going to go to the browser and we just have to search for download and install VS Code. Then you will be getting this particular page opened up. So you can download it for their respective operating system, Windows, Mac, or Linux. Okay. If you're working on Windows, you can go for this kind of a system installer. You can go for 64 or 86, depending upon your operating system type. Similarly, for Mac, you can go for the CLI, or you can go for the zip one as well and extract it and then install it, right? So once you have installed, you will be able to see such an icon getting downloaded into your desktop. So open it and you'll be able to see the welcome screen coming up. So I'll be creating a separate video on the tips and tricks on how to work with Visual Studio Code. But right now, what we are going to focus on is to just get started with JavaScript in this particular session. So what we would be doing is that we will have to create a folder. If you see here, there is no folder created or there are no projects opened here, right? So we need to create a folder. We need to create a file within the folder. So what I would be doing is that I'll be going to my desktop. Okay. And let me create a new file here. I'll just open it up as a text document. Okay. And I'll just try to give it a name. Let's say, for example, I'll just call it as index.html file. Okay. I'm just going to open it up. And let me create a workspace here. And I'll call it as JavaScript files. Okay. So what we need to do now is that we have created a folder already. Now I'll just move this particular file which I've created inside this particular folder. Okay. And I'm going to open this particular JavaScript files folder from my Visual Studio Code. So I have to go to Visual Studio Code, click on File, and say Add Folder to Workspace. Okay. So we're going to create a new workspace and open up this folder here and add it. Okay. Now we can rename this file extension. It's not a worry. We can just go to here and click on rename and remove this .txt. So we're going to look at the HTML file. Okay. So for those who are like very new to HTML, even I'll try to create a video separately for just the HTML basics. So you can, look at that, but just I'll be explaining from basics in this session. So no need to worry. So whenever you start with working with HTML, you need to remember that you have to start with the HTML tag and you need to close with the /HTML tag. That's the basic part. Now in HTML, there are two important sections which you need to know. One is the header section and one is the body section. Okay. Now in the header section, normally what data goes is that we have the application title. So I would say that, well, let's say, for example, XYZ application.com. I'm just giving an example. Okay. It's just something like that, XYZ application. It's a title of the browser. It will be showing as this name. Okay. Now in the body is where we have to focus right now for this session. That is, we are going to have one tag for JavaScript that's called script tag. Okay. We're going to have a tag for JavaScript, which is called a script tag. And here we are going to write certain script which is going to be nothing but we are going to follow the JavaScript syntax. So a very basic JavaScript syntax, if you would want to know to get started, would be document.write, means writing something on the application. Let's say hello world, for example. A very basic example we have taken, right? And if you want to print something rather than on the UI but on the console, you have to write console.log. Hey, this is JavaScript. Okay. So just a very basic thing to get started now. And you need to put a semicolon. It's optional, by the way. In JavaScript, it's optional. But since I am more used to Java, I've been like practicing using JavaScript as well with semicolon, but it's optional for you all. No need to worry. In Python, we don't use any semicolon. So similarly, you can keep it without semicolon as well. That's all. Now what we have to do is we need to open up this HTML page and then see what is the output. So what I would do is I'll go back to my desktop. I'll open up the index.html and you can see we are able to see hello world shown in the UI. And if you look at the title of the application, it shows XYZ application. Okay. So that is successfully being able to do whatever we wanted it to do. Now, if you want to look at further detail in the JavaScript, what you can do is just press Control, just press function and F12. Function F12 on your keyboard. And you would see a kind of an inspector getting opened up. Let me do one thing. You can also click on right click and do inspect. Okay. And if you see this kind of a navigation bar would be opened up, which has got elements, console, and etc. Different tabs would be there. Go to the console. Okay. And you can see in the element section, you would have whatever script I had written in HTML. The entire script would be visible here. And you can see whatever JavaScript we had written is also visible in the script tag. If you go to console, you can see this is the output being shown. Why did it show it here? Because I have written console.log in my Visual Studio Code. And I had written hello world in my document.write. That is why hello world got shown here, right, inside the application. So this is very basic example. We have just started with a particular HTML as an example. We can also do some JavaScript here. So if you were to say like 2 plus 2, for example, see, it's giving you the output as 4. We can also write here console.log. Hey, this is cool, right? See, you're getting the output. So these are the syntax which you can also write directly on the console window. And if you want to do it within HTML, you can do it within the script tag, the JavaScript syntax. Now, what we will try to do here is that whatever code is present here, right? I'm going to my Visual Studio Code. Okay, I'm going to create a new file by right-clicking on this particular folder, new file. And this is going to be our first JavaScript file. So let's call it as first js.js. So your JavaScript is going to have an extension of .js. And then you're going to paste the content, whichever we had put there, right? Okay, that's all. A very basic example you've taken of a JavaScript where we're using a console.log function to be able to print something, like how we're using system.out.println in case of Java, or stdout like in case of C++, right? So similarly in JavaScript, we are going to use a different syntax called console.log. And whatever we want to write here, we're going to write it inside this particular parenthesis. It can be with apostrophe, single apostrophe. It can also be with double apostrophe, right? Double quotes or single apostrophe, both are accepted, not a worry, right? And this is basically considered like a string inside this method, right? Now what we need to do is we need to give this name. So I'm going to do rename, okay? Copy this entire file name, go to my index.html file, and I can just give a source here that where am I getting this particular file from? I'm getting the file from my first js.js, and I can simply remove this content now because I'm referencing the entire content from this JavaScript file. Now let's do one thing. Let's go back to our application. Let's close this tab just so that I want you to see that what happens. Basically, you do this kind of action. So you're inside your JavaScript files, just open up the index.html and you can see it is coming from hello world. Now let's go and inspect this particular page and look at the HTML body. It is coming from first js.js. Okay. So that is how the content is basically organized. Even though I have moved the content to first js.js, and it is showing where is the location of my JavaScript file if you just do a mouse over, but still it is able to get the desired output, right? And if I go to console, it's saying, hey, this is JavaScript, because we still have document.write as a part of your JavaScript file.